Keep. Gonna start off with a fetch here. And a Delver of Secrets.
And he does have the days to protect it. This definitely is going to draw the days, right?
I would have to imagine so. So many of, days specifically gets so much worse in the face of a Deathrite Shaman that...
Right. And it may cost you a mana, but it costs him a mana too. Making days basically a 0 mana hard counter.
And with Wasteland in hand, he may just have the hope that Kevin has a non-functional hand without this Deathrite Shaman and without the Bayou he got.
Yeah, plus every time you Stone Rain both of you, the guy with the 3/2 flyer is at an advantage, if this Delver flips.
His Force of Will.
Not too shabby. Not at its best in this matchup normally. However, certainly a totally reasonable card in this position.
Yeah, the pacing of the game might lend itself to Force of Will being appropriate. So, Insight Dial Aberration across for 3. Creeping Tarp hit the play from Kevin. Insight Dial Aberration across again. Here's a replay of the Tropical Island and another Delver of Secrets.
Gerhart finally at 2 mana for the first time.
And potentially on, if he uses a fetch land here, potentially a 2-turn clock.
Jeez, these Delvers hit hard.
It's going to fetch, knocking himself down to 12.
Toxic Deluge would be fantastic here. Not this turn, obviously, but if you could set it up for next turn, as long as you can force it through that Force of Will you know about.
Yeah, the
maybe with a Thoughtseize or Hymnatorok.
Yeah, these sideboarded deluges have a chance to be really high impact. Here's a Hymnatorok.
Gerhart hoping to hit that Force of Will just so that things settle down.
Well, Morgan, I know, has a Brainstorm in hand, so he may want to force this just to be able to ensure that he gets to Brainstorm on his upkeep.
To make sure that Delver's hitting and this is a 2-turn clock for Legitsies.
And hitting in multiple 3s is so good for Morgan's deck too, because keep in mind, he's the one with 6 Lightning Bolts in his deck.
So he pitches Brainstorm. Does that mean he has 2 Brainstorms? Or is he just taking a chance?
He kept Spell Pierce.
Oh, just for another Time Walk? Maybe to hit that Deluge he's expecting next turn. It does cause the clock to be...
So, the Delver and the Insight Dial Aberration across for 4, and here's Nimble Mongoose. Game 1, no deluges. So Baleful Strix the play from Kevin. And plays a land and says go. Shows days to Delver of Secrets.
This is a real short clock.
Yeah, this rug deck is ruthless.
Yeah, and without even having the Toxic Deluge until game 2, this is a spot where it's got to be like Abrupt Decay for the Delver and Blocker for the Nimble Mongoose.
And these incremental points of damage from these fetch lands are adding up quite a bit too. I mean, Kevin is now falling to 3 and is facing 2 lethal attackers.
Yeah, he doesn't even have time to Liliana. A Shardless Agent would be just what the doctor ordered, though.
But then he also has to win the game quickly enough before just a straight Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning off the top doesn't finish things.
Absolutely, and that's to say nothing of the Spell Pierce that Morgan still has available to him.
So let's see if he wants to fight over this Brainstorm. The question is, if the card you're worrying about here is Abrupt Decay, what else are you going to Spell Pierce?
Yep.
This Brainstorm is going to be pretty attractive. Not a lot of other relevant cards to tag with his soft permission at this point.
Yeah, I mean, like you'd like to hit Liliana or Jace, but he doesn't have time for all that.
Mm-hmm. He's going to let the brainstorm resolve.
Interesting.
Kevin just looking at some lands here. Charlotte's Agent.
And this is what Gerhart was hoping to find.
So this triggers, the cascade trigger occurs before Morgan has to make a decision about whether or not he wants to counter. So I would imagine the cascade trigger is currently on the stack. Charlotte's Agent is not yet in play. So he's going to float a mana here and daze.
Gerhart dropping to 2. But it does mean that his cascade is going to be random.
Yeah, in case he had something set up there.
Yeah, like the Abrupt Decay or the Strix.
We know that Kevin had just put some lands back and was trying to do a little shuffling, but
Morgan taking no chances.
there's a Thoughtseize.
And
That
they
is
go to
no
game
help.
2.
And we are quickly moving on to a second game. Morgan Mclaughlin off of Mclaughlin there, but had a Delver of Secrets, a Wasteland, some Disruption, and there you have it. Moving on to the sideboarded games. Welcome back to the booth. Patrick Sullivan, Patrick Chapin, StarCityGames.com. Legacy Open, we are in the finals, and we have a trivia giveaway. Do you want to give the rules this time?
Absolutely.
You made fun of me last time, so I want to...
No. Open to all applicants who may be watching the show right now. Tweet at us at SCG Live with the answer to a trivia question. We care about accuracy, not speed. We're not affiliated with Twitch, and you should follow us so that we can answer back. And if you win 12 months of premium, and that rules.
At SCG Live, hashtag SCG Premium. Not that we aren't affiliated with Twitch, but these promotions are not.
Dude, we don't even know those guys.
I couldn't tell one apart from the other.
No, Twitch is actually awesome.
Yeah, the Twitch is sweet, and we
But
love
they're
the
not
work.
involved in the contest.
Right, and so we had to disclaim that because otherwise they get a phone call if certain streams don't fulfill their obligation, and this becomes a thing.
Yeah, I can only assume that it's been like, when like Louise is streaming, or Conley or Kibble or Finkel, and they're streaming and they're just talking about, some crazy contest off the top of their head because they're just sitting there holiday cubing.
The question is, Star City Games, the open circuit, is taking next weekend off because of the pre-release. The following weekend, Cedric and I will be in what city for the next show on the Open Series? Tweet that city at SCG Live, hashtag SCG Premium. The winner will be chosen for a full year of Star City Games premium content.
That's 12 months.
That's a full 365, I want to say 365
this
days.
time around.
Right. Maybe if it's leap year, maybe a little bit more. Anyhow, we're going to be moving to the sideboards here.
Yeah.
You mentioned Gerhart with access to Toxic Deluge among some other cards. What does he have to try to steal these post-board games?
So obviously Toxic Deluge, the primary card, but he also has access to Notion Thief, Nile Spellbomb, Golgari Charm, Disfigure, Duress, Flusterstorm, and Thoughtseize. One of the advantages of Golgari Charm is not only can it hit Delver of Secrets a fair bit of the time, it's got very real chances of hitting a Nimble Mongoose, and he's going to be up against 3 True Name Nemesis, possibly. He also has access to, little tweaks if he wants to Disfigure, to be able to, combat a Delver, but I think the Disfigure is a little risky. It does allow him to win a Tarmogoyf head-to-head, but it doesn't really interact with True Name Nemesis or Nimble Mongoose in any way remotely good. Notion Thief, not at its best here. I mean, obviously, you can dream about the Brainstorm, but the rug deck is so low to the ground, I don't think you can afford to play that expensive of a threat.
Yeah, slightly different situation than we had when he was playing against Bug, where deck's a little bit on the slower side. Possibly there's an opportunity for that game to go long. The Nile Spellbomb seem excellent to me here.
Tactically, being able to shut off the threshold, very important.
Yeah.
Let alone the, obviously Tarmogoyf.
Rogue Delver is not an explicit graveyard deck, but the graveyard's certainly a resource. On Morgan's side, 2 copies of True Name Nemesis, a Sylvan Library, 2 Ancient Grudges, 2 Flusterstorms, 3 Pyroblasts, 3 Submerges, and 2 copies of Rough Tumble. How do you feel about Submerge in this matchup? You know,
yeah,
there's there's Baleful Strix and Starless Agent, not the best Submerge targets, but Deathbraid Shaman and Tarmogoyf still high quality targets.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I think you don't necessarily you don't have to do it at all costs, but I still think it's definitely worth it because you don't really this rug deck really does struggle with Tarmogoyf. It's got Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning, but that's a real rough way to try to deal with a big Tarmogoyf.
So you expect the Submerges to come in?
Oh yeah, and I think I actually think that he's probably going to want to keep the True Name Nemesis out. I mean, as great as they are against fair decks, and this deck's relatively fair, we're talking about a deck that has Liliana of the Veil, Golgari Charm, and Toxic Deluge. I think that maybe he keeps the one in that he already has, but I do not think this is the best matchup for True Name Nemesis among fair decks.
Yeah, once you have the information on your opponent's sideboard, which these players do, the sideboards and deck lists are public during the elimination rounds. You have to imagine it's not worth trying to slog through all those cards, especially when you look at cards like Golgari Charm, which aren't terribly good against Rug Delver outside of situations where you have True Name Nemesis.
Now, I do think that Pyroblast is worthwhile. Being able to hit a Brainstorm and Ancestral Visions, a Jace the Mind Sculptor, very reasonable uses. And occasionally you'll get rid of a Baleful Strix that was brick walling your Tarmogoyf. I also think that it's worth considering, although I don't know if you actually want it, but it's worth considering Rough Tumble. The fact that it hits Shardless Agent and Deathray Shaman is something, but in the end, I don't think it's going to be worth it because of Baleful Strix living through it.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of different cards that Morgan needs to try to fight. A lot of different dimensions that Kevin has access to try to defend himself, to ultimately get to his Planeswalker.
What's interesting is that Gerhart isn't exactly just chock full of bad cards or anything. So even though he's got lots of options to upgrade, he's going to have to take out good cards for them. His deck doesn't, I mean, obviously you don't want Thoughtseize here, so he's got a couple easy ones. But he's not exactly, overflowing with massive upgrades.
I think Hem is a little suspicious in this matchup, as is Thoughtseize.
Yeah, the Hymn to Tarax, he's only got 3 of them, but the Hymn to Tarax, I think, struggle when there's Spell, Snare, Pierce, and Daze.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you are definitely right that that's going to be the first 5 that he pulls out. Now, with 2 Toxic Deluge, 2 Golgari Charm, 3 Nile Spellbomb, and a Disfigure, he's going to have to make 3 more slots available.
Not even setting aside even the soft counters and the spell snares. If Kevin's losing the game, it's going to be because he's under the gun. And that's because, those are spots where cards like him and Thoughtseize aren't at their best.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about Shardless Bug playing 0 Force of Wills?
It's pretty ambitious. I mean, you're expecting your Thoughtseizes and your Hymns and your sideboarded cards to take the day. And in fairness, he does have 2 Flusterstorms, 2 Duresses, a fair amount of anti-combo cards to bring in, but it is a bold move.
I mean, he's got 18 blue cards main deck, none of which are particularly bad against combo. I mean, maybe Jace is a little slow, but Baleful Strix is a little slow, but he has some blue cards.
I feel like I would at least want a few in the sideboard. I'm not saying you got to go up to the full 4. But
I think you just can't let people know you don't have them.
Oh, for sure. That's a big part of it. You can see behind the players, the staff starting to break down the convention hall a little bit. We are, as usual, the last act standing.
Yeah. Oh, it really is an endurance competition. Usually won by whoever's in first place in the tournament, or the judges, or the commentators.
Right.
Morgan, slow rolling himself. And his hand, real tempted to take a mulligan. He's struggling. Kevin Gerhart, on the other hand, obviously just has the stone nuts.
And Morgan isn't Hollywooding here because he did mulligan in the first game.
Goes into the tank for 4 minutes, comes out with turn 1 Delver, protect with Daze and Force of Will.
Wastelands, Kevin's first 2 lands.
I mean, we are in Novi. Giving him the Herber Halls would be would be very fitting.
Is that what it's called?
I believe they call it the easy heezy.
Okay.
Morgan's going to go to 6 once again. Not happy to mulligan, but he did the math.
He eventually said, I don't think I can keep this hand.
Our number 1 seed after Swiss, 1 game away from being the SCG Detroit Legacy Open champion.
The sideboard own Andrew Schrout hanging out in the background there, chatting up the judge.
Yep.
Ben Weinberg, top 8 competitor, lurking in the background, trying to walk off what happened to him in the top 8.
Oh, yeah.
The zealous persecution heard round the world.
I like the action shot we got here with Johnny Hot Sauce, being able to gauge his reaction if we see a game like earlier. We got a reader.
Turn 1, Nile Spellbomb.
Does this do what I think it does? Drats.
Let me just confirm this is really bad for me, right? Okay, cool. And a ponder from Morgan. Ponder, Tarmogoyf, and a land amongst the cards.
Another nice advantage to Nile Spellbomb, a subtle strength, is that it cycles. There's going to be some percentage of the game where you're a little bit light on mana, and this Delver deck draws, draws like Wasteland 1 or 2, and you're like, man, I just really need to get to some mana.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're going all the way up to 4, like Shardless Bug does, it is not a given that you can cast your spells.
And that Wasteland was a critical part of Morgan winning that first game. Decides to keep, takes the ponder. Underground Sea and Brainstorm. Playing around a potential daze.
Sometimes I wonder what it'd be like if in the old formats people knew what they knew now, like if they knew then what they know now.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the Ice Age block Pro Tour, should it just have been somebody playing 4 Brainstorms and 4 Portents?
And just thawing glaciers and just trying
Well,
to
they did have thawing glaciers left and right, but my God, if you had 4 Portents and 4 Brainstorms to go with your 4 thawing glaciers, that would be sick.
Oh, there's a lot of Magic decks from history's past where the best deck for the Pro Tour was a deck that no one had discovered yet. There's a lot of that.
Yep. I still remember Pro Tour 1. Best Pro Tour 1 deck. Or actually, maybe it was Pro Tour Dallas. Necro Balance. It was Pro Tour Dallas. Necro Balance was the best deck that nobody at the tournament actually played.
Time ago, I hear from Morgan. One of the numerous cards in Morgan's deck that is hindered in some way by the Nile Spellbomb that Kevin has. And here is Verdant Catacomb sack for Kevin.
First Blood.
Gotta feel pretty good right now that he's just making his land drops.
Yeah. Shardless Bug, plenty of tools for the Rug Delver matchup if he can just, keep from falling behind tempo-wise. Tarmogoyf of his own. Much bigger problem for Morgan than Morgan's is for Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin is happy to play a blocking game.
The only big risk here is if this becomes a submerged situation.
Well, even in that world, Kevin has the Nile Spellbomb as insurance to just say, okay, well, I'm not going to take any damage this turn, or much less damage this turn, and we can reassess.
There's always the bash and bolt Mondo combo.
Well, Morgan has True Name Nemesis in hand too, so he could try to just steal this one.
Oh yeah, particularly with he also has Submerge for the extra tempo.
Yeah, having additional creature in play means that Liliana the Veil isn't a straight up answer.
Right.
And so deploying with the True Name Nemesis when you have a creature as backup is a pretty valuable part of the equation here.
Oh yeah, particularly when you're under no pressure. This would also make a Jace the Mind Sculptor a lot less threatening.
And there is True Name Nemesis. Morgan points at him, says, "You."
Now, Gerhart can use the Nile Spellbomb.
Goes ahead and sacks at the end of the turn.
What would you think of just disfiguring the Tarmogoyf and then using the Nile Spellbomb on yourself so that the Tarmogoyf becomes a 1/2 with Ponder the only card in the graveyard?
I don't know if he's willing to really expend resources in that way at this point. And here's Toxic Deluge. Commander All-Star. Not as hyped as some of the other cards that have come through, particularly True Name Nemesis, but doing a lot of work here in Kevin's sideboard.
So he does submerge his own True Name Nemesis to make sure that he has another threat for the follow-up. Do you think Kevin's gonna add a Disfigure to take down the Tarmogoyf?
Seems like a good spot. Assuming he did it for enough, he might have just set it for 1 there to try to kill the True Name Nemesis, which appears to be the case.
Prefers to play the slow game.
So we'll see what Morgan decides to want to do here.
I mean, I assume it's got to be True Name Nemesis again, right? This is interesting. And he has Disfigure.
It's a pretty quick block here. Morgan also has Lightning Bolt, so we might see a lot of stuff clear out here.
Does he have a second? Does he have a second Submerge?
I'd be surprised if he would be attacking first if there was another Submerge involved. And they just bounce, and now I think he might have been trying to bluff here. Just redeploys the True Name Nemesis, and now Tarmogoyf goes down to that Disfigure.
Kevin's patience rewarded.
And now here's Liliana the Veil.
Wow. That
Great
was
sequence.
Game-winning. Unbelievable. Excellent, excellent, excellent.
And a Creeping Tar Pit to finish it all off.
Yeah, see, at this point, I mean, the Rug Delver deck doesn't need a lot of resources to operate, but my goodness, is it not the deck you want to play from behind?
Yeah. Delver decks in all formats, back when it was a thing in Standard.
Right.
It was so much more powerful when it was on the front foot. And Morgan on the back foot now in a bad way.
Delver is a very, very snowball-y type of deck. I mean, a lot of people want it banned, but, you know, over the years at different points. But when it starts losing, I mean, it tapers off naturally anyway. It very truly is the LeBlanc of the Magic scene. We're gonna see a 3-mana follow-up. It is Shardless Bug, a Shardless Agent. This is gonna give him a lot more resources to work with.
A lot more resources to work with. There's Ancestral Visions.
That is how it's done.
Not the juiciest Ancestral, though he does find another copy of Creeping Tar Pit amongst the 3 lands he drew. And he does have something profitable to do with the extra cards in his hand, which is discard them to Liliana.
Absolutely.
And these 2 games so far feel to me like these are games about Morgan's Wastelands. Once Kevin starts making his land drops, his deck is so much more powerful pound for pound.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, like, any deck with Jace the Mind Sculptor can hard carry. I mean, it's like the longer this game goes, the more it favors Kevin and his enormous amount of card advantage.
Even every Baleful Strix is just another problem for Morgan's total resources. Here's a Ponder. True Name Nemesis, Scalding Tarn, and a Wasteland.
But it's too little too late. I mean, he can't even True Name Nemesis anymore.
Yeah, Liliana's still at 2.
Yeah, Liliana is completely turned on.
And there's a Creeping Tar Pit at the ready to go beat downs too, so.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is like, this is 10 right now. He's trying to figure out, is there some sequence of submerges? Is there something I can draw? There is not. However, he is up a game, so this is far from the end of it.
I assume those top 3 mean he's dead here, so we're going to be seeing a shuffle momentarily.
That's the smile. That's a beaten man smile.
Yep.
That's the smile Mark Herberhall's made when he chump attacked in Dallas. The chump attack that put him into retirement.
Mm-hmm.
Attacking with a 2/2 creature into a 2/3 when his opponent's at 2. His opponent has no lines of play beyond, I guess I have to call.
All right, keeps the Scalding Tarn, and then passes the turn.
Any reason to not just swing and end it?
Let's see what's going on first. Might as well plus with Liliana. If Morgan's willing to play the game out, you might as well respect the possibility of him having real cards in his hand.
Yeah, you could have a bolt. All right, we're on to game 3, the finals of SCG Detroit.
I did not know about the Mark Herberhall's chump attack.
Oh, you should ask him about it sometime. That's the moment, he said, that's the moment in which, yeah, see, we got Michael Jacob, Detroit superstar resident Michael Jacob here, was present for that one. That's the moment Herberhall's knew it was over. That's it. That's his career. It was done.
Grey
once
Ogre
the best player in the country reduced to this.
Grey Ogre into Heirloom Minotaur with controller of Heirloom Minotaur at 2.
Yeah, I forget. It was either a Heirloom. I think it was a Heirloom Minotaur. I think it was actually he attacked with a 2/2 first striker into a 2/3, and his opponent's at 2, and he's like, "Well, you definitely have it, but I have to block. I'm at 2." And Herberhall goes on to lose the game because he has one too few of creatures over the course of the next 3 turns, and after that moves to the island of Curacao, where he eventually got an education at the School of Hard Knocks before moving to San Diego to be a game designer and developer.
Yep, sits next to me at work every day.
Yep.
We talk about our has-been, never-was careers, respectively. So going on to game 3 here, Morgan's going to be on the play. This is critical again. It feels Morgan needs to get a 1-drop and then have a lot of wastelands, some bolts, some dazes. That's his recipe. Kevin's demonstrated when he has the ability to make his land drops and just cast the stuff that's in his deck, he's a huge favorite.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the game going on just favors Charlotte's Bug. I mean, it's a good matchup for him anyway. It's not insane or great or anything, but it's a good matchup for him. And if everything if everything's working right, he's going to end up having it more and more and more edge. The key, though, is that Morgan has a lot of ways to make things not work right.
So Morgan just went through his sideboard there. We saw the 15 cards he had removed. Among them, 4 copies of Force of Will, which stands to reason. It's a very attrition-oriented matchup. Kevin has numerous angles of attack, cards that matter. I did see that Morgan did side out his 2 copies of Gitaxian Probe, and that just breaks my heart. Heartbreaking.
Yeah, but you know, it's not even actually that bad here. The only thing is you're losing a little bit of percentage from your Delver flipping.
Information matters. I mean, how much to value True Name Nemesis against a deck
that's... You can tell, though. Kevin Gerhart he's a man that has, like, he wears his heart on his sleeve. You can tell he just always has it, and you're kind of screwed.
Well,
that's
then
just the way
why
it is.
even play game 3? Why not get a head start on your drive
See,
home?
he's shaking his head. He knows. Now, the reason you play it is because on any given Sunday, anything can happen.
I would want the Gitaxian Probes in the deck. Don't you? This is a deck, now in fairness, it's really important to know about particular cards. Toxic Deluge, that informs a lot of his play. There are some draws where Kevin can easily answer True Name Nemesis. There are other draws where he just loses the game to True Name Nemesis. Knowing about whether or not that's going on and how to brainstorm and ponder appropriately, these all seem like valuable things to me.
Yeah, but Morgan's a veteran. He's a veteran explorer himself. He looks into the hearts and souls of men and sees them for their true selves.
Or rather, cut ponders.
Yeah,
We're gonna go.
Ponder,
We're gonna go down that road.
Ponder, you might make the wrong decision.
Right.
It's all this pressure.
Especially when you're working with incomplete information. How are you supposed to even know what cards to value? You know?
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's really just going to come down to whoever's life total hits 0 first. I mean, obviously, there's the possibility that Jace the Mind Sculptor will
Deck
end it
someone,
prematurely, but you know, it kind of bums me out that you're not required to name your opponent with true name Nemesis. It's just sort of implied.
No.
You should have to say their name.
Morgan pointed.
You should have to say it. Say it. What's my name? My true name.
Yeah.
I guess they
didn't
don't want
like-
to add a dexterity element to the game.
Well, that's part of it. I also didn't, when I played True Name Nemesis in the one tournament that I didn't like getting that level of familiar with my opponent. Picking up the match slip. Because we sit down, we shake hands, I introduce myself. He says his name. I've forgotten already. And the idea of having to pick up the match slip to then name his name.
You are such a red mage.
A level of familiarity. You know, I have enough trouble holding eye contact during a match. How am I supposed to say someone's name?
Well, I would too if I sat down with Burning Tree Emissary into Gorehouse, Chain Walker.
That's my best draw, though. Why are you gonna make fun? That's the best draw. That's the best thing I can do.
You just play the Gorehouse Chain Walker off your Burning Tree Emissary. The black deck just drowns you in sorrow. You just can't even look him in the eye.
No one even has Drown in Sorrow. That's not even a thing. They have one, maybe. And you could just beat him down with Rumble Belt Maka, too. That's come up.
Oh my God, you just go Burning Tree Emissary, Burning Tree Emissary, Burning Tree Emissary, Burning Tree Emissary, and he's got Bile Blight. He accidentally drops it, he's so nervous, but his hand is just Swamp, Mutavault, 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 and he just can't look you in, you can't look at him in the eye, he can't look at you.
That's common, especially on Magic Online where it's impossible to look your opponent in the eye.
Oh, they actually have an app for that.
Oh, I would not download that.
You can just, it's like if you go to nsa.gov, there's an app you can get so that you can check out your opponent like through their webcam.
Okay. You're not going to want to know what Big Dan Teague's up to when he's playing online, I'll tell you what. Kevin here taking a mulligan. I would uninstall that app pronto in the event that you run into me on Magic Online.
If you have any questions on that app, I definitely recommend just checking out the nsa.gov website. Make sure to look for it. It's The Bomb.
Mm-hmm. I'd advise against downloading that.
I don't think you actually even need to download it.
I think they download it for you?
Yeah, I think it's one of those, they like intercepted the fiber optic cable to make sure that you had the app already available for your convenience.
It's very thoughtful of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big shout out to the NSA. Just a lot of convenience, streamlining the process in a lot of places. And Kevin keeps 6. The finals is underway. Tropical Island, Delver of Secrets. This is the first 7-card hand that Morgan's got to keep so far.
Definitely a bad sign when you combine that with being on the play and having the Delver Secrets on turn 1.
Delver triggers. Does not look good.
Delver of Secrets, representing a 20, perhaps less turn clock.
Implied just because of the Verdant Catacombs. I mean,
You don't know.
You don't know, that's true. The fetch lane counts really critical when you're playing against Rogue Delver because they're generally hitting you in increments of 3.
Right.
So when you hit 18, that's an important threshold.
Definitely.
Second copy of Delver of Secrets.
Wow, if this is a Golgari charm. Now, obviously, Morgan has lots of answers in his deck to a possible turn 2 Golgari charm, but
Even main decking 2 copies of Spell Snare. I mean, he's equipped to answer that card.
There's Abrupt Decay, Disfigure.
All right, they're triggering. And Daze is revealed. So Both of these will flip. We'll find out momentarily if Morgan actually wants to draw this daze. He has the option of flipping and then shuffling the daze away inside of his upkeep.
This is a little bit of a game of chicken.
All right, there is a disfigure.
All right, the game of chicken did not last long.
That tropical island also should be untapped. And there it goes. So Morgan decides he wants the daze.
He does have True Name Nemesis here. I mean, do you think he's having dreams of throwing down a True Name Nemesis and countering a Liliana with the daze?
Or a Toxic Deluge.
Yeah, neither of which would be cast, given that Kevin obviously knows about the daze.
But who knows if Kevin even has 4 mana available.
Right. Or what evil lies, lurks in the hearts of men. A Nimble Mongoose, increasing his exposure to Toxic Deluge, but also a necessary addition to the clock.
And decreasing his exposure to Liliana the Veil.
Oh, yeah. Plus, I mean, you can't just slow play against a deck full of Shardless Agents and Baleful Strixes.
Yeah, time is not on his side, as we saw game 1, where Morgan won, where Kevin really got to do nothing productive. And in the post-board games, Kevin just lands and spells, and that was good enough. Another Delver.
Wow, he is coming at him like a full-on drone strike here. Seriously, no prisoners. Kevin untapping. He has Abrupt Decay, but he's getting tempoed right the hell out.
Yeah, Kevin did not elect to use his Disfigure on turn 1, and he's showing a lot of respect for Daze here, but part of the problem is when you respect Daze out of Rogue Delver a lot, you have a habit of just falling behind the game and maybe then losing to Spell Pierce or just Lightning Bolts to finish out the game.
Well, now he's got to be careful and decide how he wants to play it, but he just topped at Golgari Charm, which is a real winner. Being able to Golgari Charm away the Nimble Mongoose and the Delver of Secrets. The only question is, can you play around Spell Pierce? Can you play around Daze number 2?
Well, at this point, he's looking at a lot of damage, so I think the time for playing around things, beyond reason has gone. He's got to start casting stuff.
Definitely. Golgari Charm's so hot here. I think the other question is, do you risk it? Do you let Morgan untap and Golgari Charm on Morgan's turn, giving him all his mana, but preventing 1 damage?
I think so, because I don't think there's any tricks that really change, right? There's the ability for him to now brainstorm into a response. That's the narrow thing. But otherwise, about the days. He already had the 1 mana left over to cast Spell Spear or Spell Pierce. Snare or Pierce, so the risk is pretty low here, and saving a point of damage is meaningful.
Very much so. A big turn.
So the Delver still triggers, which gives Morgan the information on what he's about to draw, which may cause him to sacrifice his fetch land.
I doubt he will reveal it, though.
Correct. Especially if he's keeping it.
So while Kevin may have turned a corner a little bit, he still is under the gun from this Delver insectile aberration situation.
Kevin's life total went from 15 to 12, should be 15 to 13. So I think this is a good spot for True Name Nemesis.
Absolutely. Who do you think he's going to name this time?
Kevin Gerhart.
He does.
I name you.
I choose you, Pikachu. I really do. A Baleful Strix certainly doesn't solve the bigger problem, but at least it helps address the insect. Is that the Deluge?
I think that's the second copy. Or sorry, the first copy rather.
I mean, that's game winning if he can stick it. He's even got the mana. That's right on time.
And if the sideboarding was represented anything, it looked like Morgan had removed Force Will entirely from his deck.
Absolutely. He needs to find a Spell Pierce, or he needs to find a way to just punch through the last few points of damage or keep the Deluge from happening.
Looking at a pretty juicy ponder here of Chain Lightning, Nimble Mongoose, and another Daze.
A second daze would be real. I mean, that's
And if Kevin has to add another land to the table, let's imagine it's a fetch land here to play around the 2 dazes. Now all of a sudden these Chain Lightnings and Lightning Bolts really start to add up as well.
absolutely. I mean, 3 from the Nemesis, 3 from his fetch lands. That puts him at 7. True name Nemesis. And plus, he had to pay at least a couple life for the Deluge.
Yeah, probably 2 at least. So
That puts him at 5. The Chain Lightning on top is 1 bolt away.
see how he wants to handle this here. He's going to Chain Lightning, going aggressive.
Means he gets in there for 6, but that also means he probably didn't keep the second daze.
Yeah, he got to keep one of those cards that turn, so. There's a lot of different stuff Morgan has to play around there.
So Gerhart does fetch.
It's going to drop him to 6.
If he deluges for 2, that'll put him at 4.
And if Morgan uses a Daze to force Kevin to fetch, that
That's
knocks
bolt
him to
range.
3. And then we're looking at Bolt, Nimble Mongoose, another
Lightning.
Devil's Secrets, Chain Lightning, a
Or the
lot
true
of
name
outs.
Nemesis.
And Kevin's not even close to being able to threaten Morgan on the way back yet.
Yep.
So there's a lot of harrowing draws. And remember, no Force of Wills.
No problem.
Here comes the Deluge for 2. There's a Daze. You can tell Kevin really didn't want to go to 3 here, but the hand has been forced. That clears the board. Things are empty. Kevin with
It's anybody's game.
Morgan draws a Daze. I believe he set Nimble Mongoose down as his last card there.
What do you think about that order then? Having the daze above the mongoose. I mean, was there any real chance that you'd want the daze next?
Maybe if Kevin was trying to play towards Jason the Mind Sculptor or sequence multiple spells in a turn, both would seem like there's a reasonable chance. Here's a Brainstorm. Looking at 3 lands. Now here is Charlotte's Agent. Flips over 2 lands. A 3rd land. An Abrupt Decay with no targets.
Not the spiciest meatball on the platter.
So Morgan dodges a bullet there. Tarmogoyf would have been incredibly bad.
Definitely.
And now Nimble Mongoose is still alive. I mean, no
much
Edict in play.
Oh, it is a Tarmogoyf.
Tarmogoyf, rather.
And the good news about Tarmogoyf is that at least it can be interacted with more cards.
Yeah. Charlotte's Agent, the draw for Kevin. There's the trigger. Liliana, here's a Brainstorm.
Deathrite Shaman.
Deathrite.
Shaman.
Deathrite Shaman is incredible here.
Oh,
and a
wow.
Wasteland.
He hit the red mana with 2 Deathrite Shamans to follow up.
That is huge.
Real big turn.
I mean, if Kevin gets out of Lightning Bolt range, that's probably going to shut the door. The resource advantage he has is huge right now.
Yeah, and he has Abrupt Decay to deal with his Tarmogoyf. So what he can't do is play Deathrite Shaman and Abrupt Decay in the same turn unless he's willing to fetch.
But the difference between 3 and 2 doesn't really mean anything.
Yep.
All the same cards still kill him.
So what do you think about leading with Abrupt Decay instead of Deathrite Shaman? If he just walks his Deathrite Shaman in here,
Yeah, not great.
now it's going to get dazed.
Yeah, this is not great
wow.
operations.
If he'd done it the other way, because abrupt decay is uncounterable. Oof.
Yep, that's a misstep there.
And now he shuffled away his other Death Ray Shaman.
Yeah, so Morgan there dodged a huge bullet.
The problem is Morgan has neither red mana nor the burn spell.
Yeah, he has a hand of Tropical Island and Submerged.
4 turns. It's going to be tight trying to draw both in that amount of time, but he's got time.
Brainstorms and ponders, give him a lot of looks.
A lot of looks, a lot of good looks.
And Kevin is himself empty-handed, so even a card like Nimble Mongoose can potentially give him a ton of time.
Yep.
Suspends Ancestral.
From the not likely to matter in time file.
There's a Goyf.
And that does buy him an incredible amount of time, which obviously makes the visions a little bit more real.
I believe he forgot to take down his visions.
He did forget to remove the counter.
That daze, I mean.
Wow. There's the red mana.
I'll spellbomb the draw. This game is shaping up to a place where that missed trigger on the Ancestral Visions could be quite meaningful as well.
Oh my gosh. Man, if he just had a Death Ray Shaman right now, being able to gain 2 life a turn,
yeah,
he would have ran away with this one.
All right, there's the spellbomb. Finds a creeping carpet.
Not the best, but at least it's something. Do we know what the Tarmogoyf's new size is?
It's got to be at least lethal. And now Morgan
but is it? Yeah.
Morgan with Submerged in hand, he's going to go for it. There's the attack, and
That's
there it
the
is.
game. Morgan McLaughlin. Wow, what a comeback.
You can see the look on Kevin's face. He knows. He was so conscious in the other matches we watched where he played, where he would tap, 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 last 2 mana, that's an abrupt decay. And that was the first time we saw him on camera slip that up, and that was likely the match.